beautiful in elevation, fixed season that comes on time, rivers which flow respectively, rains in their season, land that will yield its produce, cloud and its garment, darkness its whirling band, deep darkness into mornings, waters of the sea and all that is in it, Bear, Orion and the Pleiades, chambers of the south, the moon and the stars, highest heavens, fixed order for light by night, oceans and its wave roar, every winged bird, animals, both small and great, grass to grow for the cattle, vegetation for the labor of man, plants yielding seed after their kind, trees bearing fruit with seed in them after their kind, winds that goes toward the south and turns unto the north, rivers run unto seas, yet the sea is not full, time to born and time to die, seed time and harvest, mountains, blood in the body from decades, yet it's not finished. One generation passeth away and another generation cometh. Mysteries of biology, physics, mathematics, engineering and medicine. To explain one tiny particle requires pages and pages of extremely advanced mathematics. Mysteries of the space, mysteries of the birth and mysteries of many other things. There are plenty of things in the universe and tiny information that human can understand. Big universe and everything is perfectly timed. Not necessarily God, but to control a vast amount of mighty intelligence out in the world, we need some force. But again, not necessarily God. For example, let's talk about a mission. For a mission to start in work, someone has to start it precisely. If it takes a person to start a small mission, then a vast universe. And is it okay to claim that there is nothing behind all this miraculous or mystical process? In the previous video, I spoke about atheism. Let's now look into the arguments of God's existence and come to a conclusion whether he exists or not. Argument from beauty. Plato argued there is a transcendent plane of abstract ideas or universals, which are more perfect than real-world examples of those ideas. Later, philosophers connected this plane to the idea of goodness, beauty, and then the Christian God. Various observers have also argued that the experience of beauty is evidence of the existence of a universal God. Depending on the observer, this might include artificially beautiful things like music or art, natural beauty like landscapes or astronomical bodies, or the elegance of the abstract ideas like the laws of the mathematics or physics. Argument from consciousness. The argument from consciousness is an argument for the existence of God that claims that human consciousness cannot be explained by the physical mechanisms of the human body and brain. Therefore, asserting that there must be non-physical aspects to human consciousness. This is held as indirect evidence of God, given that notion about souls and the afterlife in Christianity. To make an argument for the existence of God, we must start by asking the right questions. We begin with the most basic metaphysical question. Why do we have something rather than nothing at all? This is the basic question of existence. Why are we here? Why is the earth here? Why is the universe here rather than nothing? Commenting on this point, one theologian has said, in one sense, man does not ask the question about God. His very existence raises the question about God. Reality is self-created. Next is the option of reality being self-created. When we study philosophy, we learn of analytically false statements, which means they are false by definition. The possibility of reality being self-created is one of those types of statements, for the simple reason that something cannot be prior to itself. If you created yourself, then you must have existed prior to you creating yourself. But that simply cannot be. In evolution, this is sometimes referred to as spontaneous generation, something coming from nothing, a position that few, if any, reasonable people hold to anymore simply because you cannot get something from nothing. Even the atheist David Hume said, I never asserted so absurd a proposition as that anything might arise without a cause. Since something cannot come from nothing, the alternative of reality being self-created is ruled out. All key scientific and philosophical evidence points away from an eternal universe and toward an eternal creator. From a scientific standpoint, honest scientists admit the universe had a beginning, and whatever has a beginning is not eternal. In other words, whatever has a beginning has a cause, and if the universe had a beginning, it had a cause. The fact that the universe had a beginning is underscored by evidence such as the second law of thermodynamics. The radiation echo of the Big Bang, discovered in the early 1900s, the fact that the universe is expanding and can be traced back to a singular beginning, and the Einstein's theory of relativity all prove the universe is not eternal. Further, the laws that surround causation speaks against the universe being the ultimate cause of all we know for this simple fact. An effect must resemble its cause. This being true, no atheist can explain how an impersonal, purposeless, meaningless, and immoral universe accidentally created beings, us, who are full of personality and obsessed with purpose, meaning, and morals. Such a thing, from a causation standpoint, completely refutes the idea of a natural universe birthing everything that exists. So in the end, the concept of an eternal universe is eliminated. Philosopher J.S. Mill, not a Christian, summed up where we have now come to. It is self-evident that only mind can create mind. The only rational and reasonable conclusion is that an eternal creator is the one who is responsible for reality as we know it, or to put it in a logical state of statements. Former atheist Lee Strobel, who arrived at this end result many years ago, has commented, "Essentially, I realized that to stay an atheist, I would have to believe that nothing produces everything. Non-life produces life, randomness produces fine-tuning, chaos produces information, unconsciousness produces consciousness, and non-reason produces reason." Those leaps of faith were simply too big for me to take, especially in light of the affirmative case for God's existence. In other words, in my assessment, the Christian worldview accounted for the totality of the evidence much better than the atheistic worldview. Cosmological argument. The word cosmos means world. This argument is based on the fact that a cosmos or world exists, because something cannot come from nothing. This argument can be stated as everything begun must have an adequate cause. The universe was begun, therefore, the universe must have an adequate cause for its production, and common sense testifies that nothing happens without a cause. Every event or happening must be accounted for in terms of an adequate cause. Therefore, the argument proves the universe was brought into being by an adequate cause, and that cause was outside the universe. This also applies to God. Charles C. Ryrie stated, "The eternal being that caused the cosmos is God." This does not mean that the universe reveals all the detail of character of that eternal being, but it does mean that there is living powerful intelligent being who caused the universe living. These types of arguments go all the way back to Plato and have been used by notable philosophers and theologians ever since. Science finally caught up with the theologians in the 20th century, when the fact that the universe had a beginning was confirmed. So today, the cosmological arguments are even powerful for non-philosophers. First cosmological arguments. Saint Thomas Aquinas argued that all the causation and motion we observe can be traced back to God, who is an uncaused cause or unmoved mover. Causes and motion exist. All causation or motion requires some prior cause or motion. Things can't happen nor move for no reason. But this chain of causation or motion cannot go back infinitely. This seems impossible. Therefore, there must be a first uncaused cause or first unmoved mover. The most plausible example of an uncaused cause or unmoved mover would be God. Therefore, God exists. To challenge, one might argue that things can just happen for no reason. To challenge, one might question why exactly there can't be an infinite regress of causes or motion. While this is puzzling, so are the uncaused causes. Some also argue that there is a contradiction in the argument. If every cause of motion requires some prior cause, then how would God or anything else be an exception? To challenge the inference from to the existence of God, one might ask why the first cause or unmoved mover can't be mindless event. It shouldn't have to be God or a God.